Hey everyone, driving around today. We're trying to find a nice place to park for the night. I have to keep getting out today because it's like that perfect temperature right now where the sun is melting everything, but as the wheel sprays it up, it's filling in my wheel wells. That's all the noise you're hearing in the back. It's building up and I'm kind of concerned eventually if I go over a big bump, it's going to rip the trim off around the wheels. I keep getting out to try to get it off, but it's so stiff, I'm having trouble even getting it off of the wheel wells. I'm hoping it doesn't cause any damage. You know, that noise really started when I went over a gigantic bump, so I thought I actually damaged something, but no, it's just tons and tons of ice built up around the wheels. Are you able to hear all that ruckus in the back? That's the ice around the wheels. So I left my last camp location almost 50 minutes ago. Right now I'm driving in a massive circle. I'm gonna circle back to where all those logging trucks were coming from last night, because I'm hoping one of their areas, they're done logging, and I can camp in one of the freshly logged areas. Because then I'll be able to find lots of stuff to burn, because they rip all the branches off the trees, and the branches on the bottom are usually already dead on pine trees. So those would be really good to burn. And there should be a lot of them above the snow since they were just cut down. That's what I'm hoping for. It'll probably be another hour and 90 minutes with the road conditions to get around there. I'm just hoping I don't find some of my trim getting ripped off, because the snow building up around it is extremely heavy. I can't believe the amount of ice secretion on the bottom of the car starting to form. I just have no way of removing it. I'm probably carrying hundreds of extra pounds of ice and mud just spraying up, because this area, when I left my last camp, it was reading 42 degrees out. Now we're down to 28 degrees, which is below freezing, so it's causing lots of secretion underneath the car. And that's what you're hearing. Every time I go over bumps, the wheels are hitting it, because it's that close to them. And I'm gonna have to knock it off when I go and park, because I'm worried it could freeze to the wheel. Then I'm not going anywhere tomorrow. Alright, here's our interchange. This is a gigantic triangle, and this is a ramp going to another road. Alright, we're joining onto this road. Go onto it with caution slowly. So this means we're about our halfway point of doing this gigantic loop. Temperatures are now up to 30. I'm hoping temperatures get above freezing in this area so that stuff can melt off my wheels and I don't have to bang at it for a while. Because it is very close. Any little bump you can hear in the back, the wheels are hitting the ice building up. So that means it could potentially freeze to the tire. I'm pretty sure that we are gonna go above freezing, so I wanna get out just for a brief moment and I wanna show you what we're dealing with in the back. Not happening in the front for some reason. Oh no, I actually broke something, the strut. Oh no. It wasn't the ice making the noise. That's right against the tire. I wonder if I can get that off myself. Because I don't need that to drive. I just gotta go slow when I get on the main road. I don't think I'm gonna make it to town with that on the tire. I mean, rubbing against the tire. Who knows? Maybe I will, actually, because I was hearing that a bit yesterday. Maybe it didn't give away yesterday. But I'm gonna pull up here into the snow so I don't get myself covered in mud. Hopefully a log truck doesn't come by. I don't see any double tire marks. I don't think they're logging this area. Unless I can secure this where I'm comfortable, I don't want to drive 8 hours home. This is stupid. No, I can't park at an angle because that means there's gonna be more weight on that tire. if someone comes by, I might just have to move. Thankfully, I'm on a straightaway. I'll see them coming and they'll see me. Regardless, I'm gonna get covered in mud because this thing's dripping a lot. How can I make this thing not touch the wheel? Oh man, I'm gonna be so muddy. I don't know what I can do, because that's like, is that against it with pressure, I'm thinking? Because it's a strut. I have wrenches and stuff, but I don't know how that comes apart. I'm hoping a wrench can get that off. Or some common tool. That thing's probably torqued on there so much. But it looks like the bolts fell out. You see the end of that? I'm hoping the shop can reuse that strut and just put it right back with new bolts. It doesn't look like anything broke off. It looks like the bolts literally fell out of it. This is what I thought the noise was. This wheel actually does have a lot of ice, but now that's getting warmer, it's all falling out. All right, I gotta get to a flat area and I'm gonna take the tire off. I've been driving like this for a while. So, I am going to drive a little more, I guess, to a flat area. I think I have to take the tire off. I just hope, if I can't do anything about it, I hope I can get that tire back on so that I can get to a more main artery, because people obviously are driving it every day. They are. I have no signal, but I'm pretty sure I could get someone on my CB if I was really in an emergency. But the car runs. I have heat. I have like a week's worth of MREs in the car. Not a week's worth, but I could stretch it like one meal a day, because they're pretty filling. But I'm not gonna think like that yet. I'm gonna... I'm not hearing anything, but I do think it's rubbing. Although I've been driving hours with that issue, slowly getting worse. And it doesn't seem to be digging into the tire at all, thankfully. I think if I just take it slow like this, I can maybe get to the main artery. And then the main artery, I'm gonna feel safer where it's wider, with a lot of traffic. Maybe if I can't get the tire on, maybe somebody could potentially help. Not really help me, but maybe send a tow truck out. Thankfully, I have roadside assistance in my insurance company. I have it in writing. They will refund me for any towing bill on these roads, because I got it in writing. If the road is on Google Maps, they'll cover me, even on these dirt roads. I'm not hearing it anymore. Why? Why did it stop making noise? Maybe the whole thing fell out. I don't know. It seemed pretty attached. I couldn't even move it away from the tire. So, oh, now I'm hearing it now. Google Maps isn't even... nothing's gonna work for me. Actually, I may have offline maps. Those last a year, right? I think. I'm gonna see if I have online maps. As soon as I get to a bottom of this hill, I'm gonna stop, see if I have that. I'm probably gonna proceed until I get back to one of the more main arteries. This is a main artery, but they're not using it heavily, obviously, at the moment. I'm barely hearing it making noise at this moment. Yeah, I thought that noise at first, it sounded like plastic or something banging around. I thought it was the tire hitting stuff. Because that's like the only time in my life I've ever seen so much snow built around the tire. I wish I would have filmed when I saw it really bad earlier. Yeah, I'm gonna take the risk. 5 miles until we get to the main artery, and I'm gonna pull the tire off the car. Hopefully, when I pull the tire off the car, I can remove the strut. Because the strut is not really important. You know, the strut keeps you from bouncing. You know what I mean? If the spring was broken, I'd be way worse off, but the spring is not broken. The strut keeps the spring from bouncing. Not having a strut would only be dangerous at high speeds. So if I can get the strut out, I will be satisfied, and I'll still be able to camp out here tonight. That's what I'm hoping for. It's already 1 o'clock. I have 5 miles to go. At these speeds, I should be able to get there. I'm hoping in like 20 minutes. And then if I can easily get that off, we'll still have many hours of daylight to camp. The Days are getting longer. We finally have days longer than nights. Today is March 22nd. This area is very, very muddy. They had a sign saying big bump, and that's what I believe this little sign to the left says again. Because they don't need a tractor trailer going over that blind hill and going over that massive frost heave. That's probably how I broke the shock off. I wouldn't be surprised if it sheared the bolts off and they didn't actually fall out. You know, because I have this car inspected often enough, a couple times a year. I get under there a couple times a year to sand things and spray paint them, you know, because I travel these roads so often, you know, the rocks and stuff banging around against the frame. I'm always sanding and painting that because I don't want my frame rusting out. That's why it looks so good under there for the miles I have on it. You see, if I just go slow, I'm not hearing anything. I'm thinking that when I get the wheel off, I'll be able to lift the shock up to its almost normal position. And I have a bunch of zip ties. I'm going to zip it into place if I can't get it out. Because I'm assuming without a ratchet, I might not even be able to get in there with the adjustable wrench where it's bolted on. But I certainly don't want to crawl under there with all that dripping mud. So that's why I'm going to pull the wheel off. And I also don't think I can even do anything unless the wheel is off. The map says I have 3.6 miles now, and I should arrive there. It's saying I will be there in 14 minutes, but I don't think so. I'm going so slow. This road has a speed limit of 45, and it's offline maps, so Google isn't able to see how fast others are going. Most of these big bumps and frost heaves you see will actually go away on their own. Look at this. Look at all this spray paint, and they even put something in the road with it marked. Oh my gosh, yeah, because this one's sinking. There's little sinkholes opening up underneath that. Yeah, some guy put a box there with a rock inside it and spray painted it. Yeah, because some of these things, they open up into holes because it's ice that's holding it up, and it doesn't always melt, and it doesn't always settle even. The majority of them do go away on their own. And, you know, sometimes, even on my way up here, yesterday afternoon, on the main roads that are paved, the state of Maine, if there's a really big frost heave, they'll bring a, what's it called, a milling machine out and mill it flat. And the issue with that is it's only a temporary fix, because when it melts, it usually goes back to normal. Now they have a big hole, usually afterwards. So I don't understand why they do that in some places. Some places it will stay the same, but usually it doesn't. Yeah, I'll show that maybe tomorrow afternoon. Boom. 3 miles left. Alright, here is the triangular interchange. We are back to the main artery. Now I'm going to find the first little pull-in, because they usually plow like 50 feet into every road, so you have a place to park. It also makes it easier if they decide to reopen it for logging. Yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable on this main artery now. Now let's find a nice place to pull over. I am confident that I can actually secure that thing with zip ties. Unfortunately, I don't have metal zip ties on me, which would be ideal, but I have a bunch of plastic ones. I'll just put a whole bunch of them on there to make sure it holds. What a slippery, muddy mess. The grader came through here, which in my opinion makes it worse, but at least there's no potholes. We're heading into mud season. This is going to be a lot of holes pretty soon. Ooh, a dip. Every time I hit a bump, that thing bangs around a bunch. I wonder if it's hitting the drive line or something. That's why it goes nuts when I go over a bump. Listen to all that mud spraying up on the undercarriage for me to work on. I'm hoping I have work gloves in here. I think I do. And I'm gonna take this jacket off. I don't want this jacket to become too muddy if I am gonna be camping out here. I'm gonna need it to keep warm. Plus, the sun's bright. It's pretty warm out as it is right now. I don't even need a jacket at the moment. My body runs hot unless I'm tired, usually. I believe I just found my work site. Right in here. Perfect, I'll be right in the sun. Nice. And I have snow, so I'm not gonna be all muddy underneath. I can lay down in it if I want. Perfect. And if I do end up doing something where I can't drive, I'm on the main road. In fact, I think I hear someone coming now. This area here, at least 36 people I'd say would go on this road every day. I just realized my whole back is covered in mud, and my whole driver's seat is now covered in mud as a result. But thankfully it's pretty dry now and I can just brush it off. I have to get everything out of the trunk so I can get to my tire wrench. So there's my jack. I'm gonna need that. Where is my lug wrench? Here it is. Most cars these days have a unibody, meaning you can only jack it up in a certain spot between two grooves. But there's so much junk and mud on the bottom of this car, I'm gonna have trouble finding those grooves, so I have to clean this all off for a bit. All right, while the tire is almost still completely on the ground, I need to crack these lug nuts. All right, they're all cracked. Time to jack it up all the way. I don't like these scissor jacks, but it's what the car came with. All right, I got a decent amount of zip ties. I have some of this, and I got duct tape. All things that may help in this situation. Wouldn't it be funny if I actually had the right bolts to fix it? That is one nasty, muddy wheel well. All right, so these things are all loose. I can just easily get them all off now. Make sure I don't lose them. Oops. All right, let's see what we're dealing with in here. So, do you think I can get that bolt out right in there? If not, what can I do about this? I could maybe zip tie it. I'm hoping I can remove it, honestly. So my adjustable wrench keeps slipping. I'm trying to get that thing on the end off, not happening. And the other part, the whole strut, I don't think it's gonna happen either. I just sprayed it all with WD-40. Maybe that'll loosen it up. But certainly I'm gonna have a blowout if I try going home like this. Because look at the tire. I have worn down a good amount of it. And that is worrisome. I don't know. Maybe I should replace it. The whole tire. What do you guys think? When I get home, maybe I should just replace it. At least it's the rear tire at the moment until tire rotation, so that wouldn't be the worst thing to control if it blew out. So I've determined now there's nothing I can do to get the strut off. If I had a cutting tool, believe me, I'd use it. So in here, there's this, see this plastic box right here? I'm gonna remove that because I think if I remove that, I have no idea what's in there. It doesn't appear like there's electronics or anything inside there. If I find something, I'll put it back, but if I can get that plastic box out of the way, I can move the strut enough, and then at least now it appears to be bent out of the way of the tire, so I don't think it's gonna rub now. I got this bungee right here, holding it, and I will periodically check on it. If this works, I can still drive around, I think, but that's reducing a lot of my clearance. Luckily, there's no rocks in the road in these roads. Time to put the wheel back on. I'm gonna put it on there, put the lugs, snug it up, put it on the ground, torque it as much as I can with my feet, and then we're gonna get back on the road. I'm gonna let all this mud that's on me dry, brush it off. All right, those are as tight as I could possibly do with my hands. So now it's time to drop it on the ground and do it again. Both times I did the star pattern, or I will do the star pattern both times. All right, so yes, what I did actually I think worked. I think I solved my problem, and I think I can still continue out here. I'm just curious to see what the ground clearance will be when I drop it on the ground. Just take a look. That's way out of the way now. I just cleaned my tools and my hands off in the snow to find that hurt myself somehow. That's not too bad. I have a first aid kit. I'm gonna clean that out and put a bandage on it. And then I think we're still gonna camp tonight. It's only 3 o'clock. I'll find somewhere to go. Awesome. It's not touching anymore. It's got a good inch of clearance. So I'm pretty sure I can drive home like that now. I'm gonna have to check that occasionally because it's very possible I'm gonna be bottoming out and hitting a lot of things with that. It itself only has 2 inches of clearance. There's about 1 inch of snow right now, so that's why it looks like less. You see? You know, I love being in the country because almost every single person driving by is always eager to help. Someone just asked if I needed any help, told them what happened, told them I thought I was all right. All right, time to get back on the road. All right, the car started really nice that time. I was concerned it may have been an alternator, what I said in yesterday's video. All right. Let's go over some bumps, see if we still hear it. And occasionally I'm gonna stop and see what's going on underneath. So out here on these bumpy roads, I need to go very slow and I'm gonna be all right. As long as I go slow, that bungee should hold it into place. Even if that strut does bottom out, I don't think it's gonna hit the tire. So that's the good news. I also think that strut is reusable. I think when I bring it to my mechanic at the end of the week, when I'm out of here, I think he might be able to put it back on. But at the very least, it'll be replaced, which is not even a big deal. It's not gonna cost much to get that thing replaced. It's not like it's the front strut. Those are way more expensive. So, I'll get out in a bit. I'm running over some big old bumps and I'm not feeling a difference. The car doesn't even feel bouncy without the strut. I don't think I have to be as careful as I thought. Nothing. No noises anymore. But I do believe I had to take the tire off to be able to turn the strut the way I did. I'm a little bit fishtailing going up this hill. This mud is slippery. I'm driving down a muddy hill now and it's just like ice. Watch this. I slid pretty far, but I was only going like 8 miles an hour. If I was going faster, it could have slid over to the edge. These roads are becoming very soupy. This road is so slippery. I can't go more than 10 miles an hour without it trying to pull me over into the ditch. Way, way worse than yesterday. These roads have turned into absolute mud. It's like driving through inches of concrete most of these roads today. Way worse than yesterday. Because today it's endless. Yesterday these roads, a lot of it was dry. I've been driving now for miles and I have not come across a dry spot yet. This car is really gonna need a bath. Hopefully I get to drive through a rainstorm later this week when I drive down south. Up here, tomorrow night, we're getting 8 inches of snow, so I think I'm gonna stay up here for that and just sleep in the car. That'll be fun. It's really easy to lose control. Look at this. I don't know if you can tell. I fishtail if I go more than 20. That's my limit. I can't go any faster. The road is not allowing it. I just drove 40 miles without a single issue. Going over bumps just as normal. Wow, looking in the mirror, I'm covered in mud. Wow. I gotta get back under. That thing definitely moved back in the way somehow. And I gotta figure out what's wrong. The whole underside of the car looks like melting chocolate because I'm driving through concrete consistency mud. It was all dripping all over my whole back was covered in mud, so I just made a snow angel. And got it all off. It worked great. So what happened was, driving over all these bumps and stuff, as the bungee cord is bumping around, it actually lost its elasticness because it was rubbing back and forth over part of the frame, and it caused it to basically rip in half, kinda. So I put another one. As soon as we get off roads like this, I don't think it'll wear like that. Those bungee cords that I bought, they're like $2 a piece. I don't mind wasting a few of them. I can still hear it. It's not as good as it was the first time, but we'll see what happens. Honestly, maybe if I put the donut on, because it's a smaller tire, maybe it wouldn't touch it. Alright everyone, I just turned around. You saw all those log piles I went by, and they're right in front of me. That's where I believe a lot of those log trucks were coming from last night. So, we might see them actually loading. Right here, I don't see any tractor trailer tracks. So I don't think this is where they're turning around. They definitely aren't backing in this far. Do I see them? Oh, actually, there are tractor trailer tires, but they're not backing in this far. So I'm gonna park right here. These woods are very, very dense. I'm gonna find a place that we can pull the sled into and camp for the night. You know what? Nobody's gonna care. I only walked in about 200 feet. I'm gonna start digging with the shovel, making an area big enough for the tent. And I don't have a hammer, so I'm gonna cut a log and use that as a hammer. Look at all that dry firewood. Look how dense the woods is. I actually wanted to camp in the woods, but that's not happening today. I don't have the energy to even pull the sled. I'm just hoping I can get some sleep so I can go tomorrow to a whatever closest mechanic to have that stupid strut just removed until I can deal with it at another date. Because if it's removed, I can go a while. It doesn't really matter. Because I really do want to sleep out here during the snowstorm tomorrow. Just in the car. That's all. It's too late now. I would never make it to anyone that would be open. I'm like 3 hours deep in the forest. All right. Before the sun goes down, I have to make a spot big enough for the tent. I'm so exhausted. You see, that's not the bottom either. It's kind of hard. Yep, there's like 2 feet of snow here. It's way over my knees if I get down in there. Finally done. Oh, I didn't think I was gonna have the energy for that. I purposely made it, I'm hopefully a little bit big, so the tent can actually fit without me having to adjust it and make it bigger. Down below is solid ice on top of the gravel road. I hope I can drive my stakes into it, because this is a teepee tent that relies on stakes for structure. It doesn't have poles like a normal tent. And I'm pretty sure I forgot my hammer. Yeah, I could probably use a wrench or something else. But I'm just gonna go grab a log, cut it like 18 inches, and that should have enough momentum to drive it just as good as a hammer. I think you're technically supposed to use a mallet anyways. I still have a lot of work to do to get this thing set up. Hopefully, I burn myself out so I fall right asleep. See how hard the snow is? It can hold me. Until I started digging, I bet you didn't believe how deep that is. At least 2 feet. And you saw how it's coming out in layers? Those are all different snowstorms. That's the kind of snow that'd be good to build an igloo, because you could actually chop those in good squares and build. Good. That's really dry. I'll be able to cut this up for tonight. I just need a little section I can use as a mallet. Good enough. Should have left some snow in the middle to hold this for me. Well, I'm bleeding on every knuckle. How did I do that? It works. This thing works. Ouch. I gotta make more space. Snow in the shoe. I'm rushing. because I know I'm running out of daylight to find firewood. All right, I dug it out and it's actually set up correctly. Tons of space in here, nice and flat. Look at all the spark holes over there. That's from last time, but we're not gonna get any more spark holes because I bought the proper things now. I have a spark arrestor, and I also bought from the hardware store a fireproof sleeve that's gonna go over the pipe going through the hole, just because I'm worried about this thing, the plastic melting, because this is actual plastic. This is fireproof, but you see it still somehow got damaged. And it got all those spark holes over there. It's a pretty inexpensive tent, so, you know, it's not the end of the world that's got spark holes. At least I learned with a cheap tent. But now I think I have the proper things so that doesn't happen again. We got this thing dug out nicely. And now we got to set up the wood stove, set up my bed, get everything inside here, and then we can go get firewood. I'm absolutely exhausted today, so I might cut up a few big logs on that just so I can throw them in before bed. But I also have a propane heater that I can leave running for quite a while. I'm basically just going to go around right now and break a bunch of sticks off trees, enough so I can burn in here for a while. If you saw my video where I was camping inside the culvert pipe with the same wood stove, the tiniest little pile kept that culvert pipe nice and toasty for like 8 hours. Couldn't believe it. Now this is a lot bigger and we're on top of snow. So those are two different factors here. I'm going to lay down a tarp in there where I'm going to be sleeping. And that is a spark arrestor. It doesn't go on very well, so gotta crush it a little into an oval at one end. And now it's not gonna want to come off. That goes at the very top, so sparks can't go and make holes in the tent. Hopefully that doesn't make it so it can't vent well enough. All right, everyone, I think I'm actually going to have a good night here. So I dug this out, and now with these walls of snow, it looks like I'm buried down inside 3.5 feet of snow. So I went ahead and I backfilled a whole bunch of the snow to seal around the bottom of the tent. So tonight, there will be zero draft coming in through the bottom. So that should keep this thing very nice and warm. And right here, I'm gonna actually go ahead and shut the vents on the top of the roof, if I can. That's not gonna stay shut. So the bottom's all backfilled, so no air can get in. And take a look at the chimney. I think this will actually work really well. See this? This is fireproof. This is rock wool. And it's got this thing around it you could peel and stick if you wanted to, if it was a permanent fixture in a house. It's for keeping usually plumbing warm or around drier vents or that kind of stuff. But it's fireproof. I don't think we're gonna have an issue with it. It'll protect the tent. And I also got my spark arrestor up top, like we didn't have last time, because anytime the fire was crackling before, it would shoot sparks out and melt little holes. Now that screen should catch it. If it doesn't work, one of my viewers recommended just remove the chimney cap so the sparks can go up high into the air and they'll cool down by the time they come down. Don't do that in the dry summer, but in the winter you're not going to catch anything on fire. Also, in the car I do actually have some extra chimney pipes that would or should be added if I was going to leave it without a chimney cap. The stove didn't come with them, but I brought extras from another stove. So right now, off camera, I'm going to take the toboggan and I'm just going to walk in the woods, break off as many branches as I can from the trees. All the branches on the bottom of the trees are dead because the trees reject them when they can't get sunlight anymore from the forest being too dense. They're not going to waste their time putting energy to branches that aren't really absorbing any of the sun's rays. So that's why branches on the bottom of trees are always dead. And they'll just snap off so easily. So I'm going to get my snowshoes back on, spend maybe 20 minutes, half hour. It's getting dark fast now that I'm no longer in the sun. So I want to start cooking a fire in here. And now that I backfilled the bottom, I'm confident that I'll be able to keep this place fairly warm. And I'm hoping to get a good night's sleep, because I am quite tired. I woke up a lot just putting this camp together, but here's what it looks like from the road. Anyone going by tonight, if they look down there, they might see a glowing light. So I do think this is one of those spots, like you saw, only a couple 100 feet down the road. There's big piles of logs. I think that's where those trucks are getting a lot of their logs that we saw last night. There are a bunch of tracks in the snow at the end of this pull-in. You can see trucks backing in to turn around and get them. But where I parked is far out of where they were backing up. This is actually very simple. We're just in the middle of the road. Snowshoes are a must. Just walking out here this couple 100 feet, because I would sink so deep. We're gonna get that fire going just to get the chill out. I'm gonna set up bed and I'm gonna try to go right to sleep with my earplugs in. Don't want to get woken up by any loggers, any kind of noises there might be. Just want to go to sleep. Not even interested in eating. Not hungry, just tired. There was a shadow down there, I thought. Could have been a moose. So, this amount of firewood, if we are very conservative with burning, that could last us potentially until midnight. Right now it's almost 6 o'clock. It won't be completely dark for another hour. Got my juice right here. Let's start this fireplace up. See how that goes. It's already warm in here, but it's very smoky. The reason it's smoky is because I was right, that spark arrestor is being very restrictive. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy a... No, I actually already bought it. I'm gonna use stainless steel zip ties along with... I bought some stainless steel window screen. I'm just gonna wrap it in. That piece of rock wool insulation for the pipe is actually working quite well. But I had to remove its wrapping because it started smoking because of the glue on it. I'm gonna suffocate in here if I don't remove that spark arrestor. I'm literally gonna suffocate. I have to find a way to get that thing off without destroying stuff. Like, I don't have any fireproof gloves. Oh my gosh! Is it already plugged with junk? I just use a paper towel to take that off because that thing is way too hot to touch. The idea of no chimney cap seems to be working very good. See how it's just pumping it straight up in the air? If there was any sparks, it probably would cool down before it got the chance to come back down. So the people who said to remove the chimney cap, it looks like your idea is working quite well. Also, that pipe sleeve that I thought of looks like it's working quite well, although I had to remove the sticky part on the outside. But you see, there's still a bunch of smoke, if you can see, coming out of the door. I gotta try to figure out why. I think it's just residual, what was in the tent. I think it's gonna clear up quite fast. I'm gonna have to wash everything. Everything is smoke damaged. It all needs to be washed. And there's soot everywhere. It stinks in here, and I don't know what that smell is. I think it's the burning of the wrapper that was around this. Or I hope it's not that I'm smelling. It smells like, I don't know how to describe it. It's very, very gross. I was able to fix the problem. It's drafting very nicely now. And that's why I bought the damper, so I could control it even better. And this, it doesn't matter if the chimney overheats now with that sleeve. See how the chimney's doing. Uh-oh. It is the sleeve that's stinking. It was. Gross. That sleeve idea is not going to work. Well, I tried it and I failed. Yeah, the chimney is actually burning extremely clean. Every bit of smoke you're seeing is coming from that sleeve. I have to get that off. We have an extended chimney now. I don't think it's safe to use it as that, though. What the heck? For now, until I go to bed. That's funny. You know, this is funny. Until I go to bed, just leave that there as an extended chimney. We are burning extremely clean right now, and the fire is burning really hot. Hopefully it doesn't melt the tent, but this, I don't think that should be happening. You know, I don't think I really need a spark arrestor. I will maybe try making one, like completely homemade. I'm not even going to use the chimney cap with the holes in it because it's too restrictive, I think. I even thought it without anything on it when I first bought my other hot tent stove. So I think what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to take this chimney cap, drill the holes bigger, add more of them, and I'm going to wrap it with stainless steel window screen, which I already bought, and metal zip ties. I think it's best to make my own, or this right here is actually the best of ideas. Having no chimney cap. Because even if that thing wasn't there and the chimney was just cut off right there before it even got to the tip of the tent, it's going up with such force, any spark will just go high in the sky and probably burn out before it gets back down. Now, you shouldn't try that in a dry summer, but now there's so much snow, it's so cold. we're not in a drought anymore, and I don't think it's almost impossible to start a forest fire this time of year. And I don't see myself ever using a hot tent in the summertime. I just don't, for a few reasons. Hot tents typically don't have a floor, and in the summertime, you're going to have ants, all kinds of insects coming in there with you. In the summertime, you're not going to be able to seal the bottom with snow, so you're going to have a lot of mosquitoes. I would just prefer to use a regular tent in the summertime. Or most of all, I usually find it most comfortable just sleeping in my car, unless I am backpacking in the summertime, which I haven't done in a few years. I didn't film my camps back then, but I'll just go backpacking with a little tiny one-man tent. That's the only time I really would use a tent, unless I'm just going out in the, like, to an actual campsite. Typically, I'll just sleep in my car. I'll just go down any of these dead-end roads, maybe have a campfire outside, but I will just sleep in the car. That's usually what I do. You see all these pieces of ash? That is actually creosote burning off the chimney. It's just getting sent into the sky and landing. But you see, it went high enough where none of it's burning holes. That's, I think, fantastic. I think I'm just going to leave that thing there for now. Let it be useful for something before it goes in the trash, I guess. It was worth a shot, though. It definitely was. Oh, good. The toxic smell of that burning rock wool is gone. I thought it was the smell of the glue on it first, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't, so. We're in here now. Now all I can smell is a campfire. No more smoke, and we shouldn't have any more smoke. This stove is very efficient. If it's set up properly, it's never going to feed back into here. Even with that crooked pipe I had in the culvert, it was working almost perfectly. If you didn't have the flames big enough, some smoke did come back into the room. See? Nice hot coals. That's all that's left in there. Just got to keep breaking pieces of firewood. That had a lot more stretch to it than I thought it would. Throw it in there. It's a little bit wet, but that'll quickly dry and combust. It's just going to make a little bit of extra smoke outside. Nice. And a little stove like this, it runs so efficiently. Even though this is a pretty big space, it's nice and warm in here. I got to get my thermometer set up in here, and pretty shortly I'm probably going to go to sleep. I'm going to cut up these bigger logs I brought in, just so anytime I may wake up for a brief moment, I can just throw them in the fire. I was able to start today's fire with some pieces of paper towel. I couldn't find anything like birch bark outside, so that's what I used. I could also use that cardboard box right there to start my next fire. And I have that propane heater I'll likely leave on overnight. That thing will only run for about 90 minutes or so before the tank of propane freezes solid and it shuts off. Even if it didn't freeze solid, the tank is only big enough to run that thing for about 3 hours. So I just swap the tanks. When the other one defrosts, just put it back and it runs itself out pretty well. It's already getting chilly in here. I gotta shut the door. Check it out. I got that thing burning really hot. The glass is just dirty. We come outside and look, you don't see a thing coming out of the pipe. It's burning so clean. All you can maybe see is the heat signature in the air. See how it's a little wavy? Zero smoke. This stove always runs very, very clean. It's probably so hot. Wow. The exhaust coming out of there is so hot. You can get burned like a foot above it. And there's so much exhaust. It's like it's blowing so hard like a jet. It's basically a rocket stove, this thing, the way it burns things. I love it. So this thing, I believe, uses 2.5-inch pipe or so. I have that other guide gear stove, which uses the bigger 3-inch, I think. And I bought a sleeve for the bigger 3-inch. This is probably 2 or some weird, but it fit the pipe absolutely perfectly. Now, knowing what I know, the other one is absolutely useless to me. It's past the date I can return it, so I'm probably just gonna donate the other one. But without a chimney cap, that's going absolutely perfect. And I have 2 more sections in the car, but for my next camp, I have enough sections of pipe. That thing could be like 4 feet taller than the tent. And then I don't think sparks would be an issue at all. It would draft absolutely perfect. That's what I think I'm going to do next time, bring all the piping I have. That other stove, the reason I haven't used it yet is because it's an odd shape. I just don't think I'll like it as much. So that's why I just haven't used it yet. I was thinking about maybe trying to find a way to convert it to gas. The reason I wanted to convert it to gas is because using like the little buddy heater in there, when you burn propane, it's called a wet heat. And that's because it creates moisture when it burns, and it makes condensation on the walls, which in this kind of weather becomes frost. Tonight's going to be 15 degrees, and what that means is just the entire inside is going to be frosty. You know, it's really not a big deal, but then you go and you pack the tent away with a ton of residue on it that you can't get off because it's frozen. You know, it can cause mildew and stuff on your tent. That's the only thing that I have a problem with. But the reason I was thinking about making or converting the stove I've never used with wood into gas is because the exhaust would come right out like a furnace. And I think that'd be totally awesome to have a little gas furnace. I just am thinking of how to do that because I know a propane water heater has a completely mechanical thermostat on it. The pilot light is able to ignite the burner. When it gets up to temperature, the burner goes out, but the pilot light's always burning to kick in automatically. I want to learn how to make it into a little furnace because I know it's possible. I just don't know how hard it would be to actually do that. I was thinking about making it into a little furnace. Yeah, this thing's running like a rocket stove. I don't know if you can tell, but every now and then I see like a little brief flame come out of the top of it. It's burning real hot. You know, I've been out here now for probably at least 2 hours since I started digging this thing out. Not one car has gone by. We're just so deep in the middle of nowhere. You know, today, driving around, because I left my other campsite at the time I did, I've only passed 3 people all day, and I drove for 4 hours. I passed a guy who stopped on the bridge to talk to me yesterday, and I drove by one worker, and the other guy drove by me when I had the tire off the car, asking if I needed help. But there's not really much he could have done because I believe I can drive out of here myself. You saw how earlier I had that shock 2 inches off the ground. Now it's barely an inch off the ground. But I'm going to try to make the almost 60-mile trek back into town. There's a little shop there, so I want to get out of here at the crack of dawn. I'm probably not going to have breakfast. I'm just going to have a quick protein shake. I'll snack on trail mix on my way back to town because I have to drive back very slow with caution. I probably can't drive more than 30. Got to go over the bumps really carefully, and there's a ton of them this time of year. Frost heaves everywhere. I'm hoping I can get to town by like 12 or noon, and I'm hoping that the shop in town, because it's a really small town that I'm going to be heading out of the woods into, I'm hoping the guy would be able to sneak me in and put me on the lift because you know, with the proper mechanic tool, he could zip that thing off in just a minute being on the lift as soon as, well, it'd probably take him like 10 minutes. You got to take the tire off, put it back on. As soon as the shock is gone, there's no reason I can't drive home, and then on my own time, I can have someone fix that. I only set this thing up because I wanted to have a nice place to sleep tonight. I did want to end up setting this thing up. I know I rushed it a little bit, but this is absolutely cool how deep the snow is that I set this thing up in. I love it. We're now at the end of March, so this stuff is going to start melting soon. Maine is cold, you know. It can be cold and snow through the month of May, although it's not that common, and if it does snow in the month of May, it's probably going to melt the next day. Now, this time of year, it gets very cold at night, typically. Tonight's going to be 15. Last night, we actually got down to 8. Last night was actually supposed to be 19, but we got down to 8. Tonight's supposed to be 15, so who knows how cold it could actually get. So I'm probably going to go to bed in like an hour. I want to take my boots off because they are a little bit damp in there since I got snow in them and they melted. I'm just going to put my boots on the little racks on the side of it. They're not wet enough where they have to drip, so I'm just going to put them upright, and the moisture should evaporate out of them quite quickly. And I'm also going to find a place to hang my socks up. I'll probably just put my socks draped over the top of the boot, allowing enough area for moisture to escape. Oh my gosh, it's so nice and warm in here. I got to get the thermometer out. I need to know how warm it actually is in here. Yeah, this thing needs to be cleaned. I'll clean the window on that when I get home. We can probably open that up. Yeah, this thing got such good draft going up the pipe. We can take a good look in there. Nice and warm. Let me get these boots off. And I'm probably actually gonna maybe set the propane heater up right in front of me because I'm gonna have nothing on my feet. And I wanna put my feet right in front of the heat, right here. I'm gonna be barefoot for a little while. It's very nice and warm in here. This is actually working quite nice. Look how wet some of those are. You just saw that drip. Yeah, there's snow on them, so I'm sure it's smoking outside. It don't matter. It's a nice fire. It's keeping me warm. Hopefully it'll dry all my stuff. Look at all that steam coming off the top of it. That's because I just went ahead and put a stick there with some snow on it just to melt it off. I'm sure by the time I go to bed, these will be dried. I've actually woken up a bit. I might be up for a few hours, actually. It was like 55 degrees, but I just started feeding the fire again. It'll get back up there pretty fast. It's going pretty well in here. You see, I have a bunch of firewood here that I just cut up with the saw. A few more pieces are going to have to be cut up with the saw. They're just too stiff to break with my hands. The stove is running nice and hot. Temperature is 48 degrees. But that's going to climb. I just opened the top of the door to let out a bunch of smoke that I got in here because I realized this place is actually going to be very easy to heat, whether I'm using the propane later or the wood stove now. Since I sealed the entire bottom of the tent with snow, there's very little ventilation, so if it does get smoky in here, it has a lot of trouble leaving. And I'm also realizing in here, this thing here, because there's no draft coming in the bottom of the tent, a wood stove needs to breathe. It needs to replace all the air it's sending up the chimney. So I realized there's actually a big draft coming out of that hole. It's trying to get it from anywhere. Check it out, everyone. We are currently running like a rocket stove. See this? The tent has a second door. I just opened it up. Look what's outside. Look at the top of the pipe. It's like a blowtorch when you're running it really hot. That's really cool. Yeah. This pipe is extremely hot right now. Oh my gosh, the bottom of it's glowing. Let me shut the light off in here. Wow. It's like a real rocket stove. Wow. Right now we're maintaining about 52 degrees. But look at that, it's already 11. I'm sure outside is already very cold. So I'm running this on low. And I have this thing which, for the better part of the night, has not been running that great. It actually just really ignited just now. I can hear it. There's flames going up the tube. So that's when it's time to just close the damper a little bit. Yeah, most of the night, that was just smoldering. Literally a minute ago, it just poof. Everything just went up. Because that is not the driest stuff I connected. I actually did not collect that off the trees. I actually got that I found a lot of it sticking out of the snow, so a little bit is actually wet. So I learned over my past couple camps, this little thing here, $20 at Walmart, this is like the best thing to cook food on when you're camping. It's simple, it's extremely fast, fastest method of heating up water or cooking anything in a pan that I've seen so far. It'll boil water in a pan in like a minute. I actually still got a lot of mud on my face. You know, I was tired all day. I'm only a little bit tired now. I actually woke up a whole ton. Did not expect myself to still be up at past 11 o'clock at night. I think that I am going to go to bed in maybe an hour. I still am not hungry. I'm just thirsty. I'm really not hungry. I haven't had anything to eat since this morning. Well, that's not true. I did have 2 protein shakes throughout the day, but that's not really much. I'll have breakfast though on that little cooktop I just showed you. I did bring with me a couple cans of soup. I might have one of these cans in the morning. Still got a few other things. I don't know if I'm going to trust this cheese by the end of the trip. But it's been outside and cold the majority of the time. I got my coffee for the morning. It's really warm up here in the top. I bet if my thermometer was up here, it'd be reading something like 90. I staked this thing down really tight. I can hear gusting winds out in the trees, but this thing's not flapping at all. Also, remember, outside, I have a pile of snow surrounding this entire thing like a wall, and it's like this high outside. That's also stopping a lot of breezes from coming in here. But also, I am basically camping inside a hole, and coldness, I guess, is kind of pooling down here. Because if I shut these heaters off, it's chilly in here in like 10 minutes. You know, maybe eating some food will make me sleepy again. So let's have this can of soup. The stove is actually starting to have the pipe glowing red again. You see how the stove pipe is kind of purple? It kind of matched the silverware here. This pot's almost overflowing from it. Because the stove is kind of crooked. We are burning really hot. Look at that. The exhaust pipe is glowing again. I wonder if there's flames coming out the top like before. That's glowing a lot more than before. Wow. Look at that. Very, very hot pipe. It's actually getting so hot in here now that I shut the propane heater off for now. I'm going to get rid of everything here before I go to bed. And the last thing I'll throw in are these logs. But I'm about to have dinner. Wow, that's one bright pipe. That thing is so hot you could probably strike a match on it. Let's see if we touch it. This will start smoking, right? instantly starting smoking. Look at that. I bet if I held it there, it would combust. You know what? Here's a paper towel. Ah, look how hot it is. I lit a paper towel on fire with the exhaust pipe. Wow. Check it out, everyone. Glowing pipe out the top. You see it? Look at that. It's like a blowtorch outside. That is so cool. And it's been doing that now for like 20 minutes straight. It's really hot in here now. We now got the place up to 70. The soup is all warmed up for me. I've been in here for like 5 hours sitting with my legs crossed, and I'm getting some of the worst cramps. I wish I had a spoon. I have a couple plastic spoons in the car, but all I had here was the fork. Would have liked to sip on some of that broth. I might when it cools a little more before I dump it. Because it's so cold out still this time of year, I'm really not concerned about a bear. So that broth, I'm just going to dump it right into the ground back there. And whatever residue's there, something will eat it. All right, that's it for the wood. All of it is in there now. All right, everyone, it's 1:15 and I'm going to bed now. That thing will be out probably in about a half an hour. The wood stove will be cold to the touch probably in the next 2 hours. And I think I'm going to leave the propane heater running while I sleep, because it is going to be a pretty chilly night. All right, everyone. I actually got a very good night's sleep. I slept 7 hours straight. That's pretty rare for camping, sleeping that far through for me. Yeah, I was exhausted yesterday, and I slept pretty good in here. I sealed around the bottom of the tent with snow, and that worked great. I sustained over 60 degrees in here all night. And you know what? Because it was such a nice warm temperature throughout the night, my propane can never froze solid, meaning the heater never shut off. And I was amazed to see that heater actually went, I believe it was like 4 hours on a single propane can before you saw in the time lapse I swapped it out. Right now I'm heating up soup. That's a family size can. It didn't all fit in one tray, so I'm gonna have 2 batches. When this is all warmed up, I'll put the other one on the stove. I better start drinking. I'm also, I can feel it in my eyes. My mouth is dry, and I just went to the bathroom, and I can see I'm very dehydrated. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's being near the heat all night. I don't know. I also have hand warmers in each of my boots and each of my gloves. That kept me nice and warm all night. This was one of my best nights sleep camping so far. This thing, I got so airtight that this thing, the heater, was able to keep it so nice and warm. The only opening is underneath the entrance of the door. There's a good gap there. There's a couple vents in the ceiling where the pipe goes through. That heater has an oxygen sensor. It would automatically shut off if it got unsafe in here. And I also have a CO detector behind the camera. When I first woke up, I noticed all these droplets outside. At first I thought they were inside. I thought it was condensation. Because I had mentioned to you guys that we're supposed to get 8 inches of snow tonight. But apparently it may have already started the storm. I'm looking up through that hole. It's snowing right now at a good rate already. So yesterday I was able to get that strut hanging on the car that I must have... I think I ran over a frost heave pretty hard. Actually, yesterday, I hit nothing yesterday harder than I ever have before. I've hit things so hard that I've hit the stop blocks. Did not do that once yesterday, but maybe from doing that hundreds of times over the years, the mounting bolts on the strut, I think, had just had it. The strut is not broken at all. It looks like all the bolts just sheared off. Or they fell out, one or the other. I didn't look at where it came off of. I just see the strut's not broken and it's just hanging there. But I got it pretty far out of the way yesterday because I was unable to get under there and remove it with a wrench. But then I noticed it's kind of close again. So I think before I get on the road, before it starts snowing possibly even more, and before all this stuff's in the trunk, I think I'm going to pull the tire back off again. See if anything I did yesterday got reversed at all. Because I drove 40 miles yesterday before it started becoming a problem again. Maybe if I can get that out of the way, I'll have a pretty quick ride back. And I don't have to go extremely slow. And who knows? Maybe I don't even have to stop at the mechanic in town. Because if it works, say, for a while, and when I get back to the asphalt road, if I have to pull the tire back off again and do it again, as long as it has a couple inches of clearance, then I'll drive home just slowly. Because from here, I probably live about almost 7 hours away with the road conditions. I just need to wake up. I'm exhausted. I also have a coffee I can have. I got one massive blister yesterday from shoveling this thing out so fast. A couple of my knuckles were bleeding when I was shoveling this out. It's because I did it so fast. And that snow is not soft. It's hard like sandpaper anytime I touch it with my bare hands. This thing's completely cold. I can take that down from the inside. You saw last night I dumped out all the debris in the sled because I didn't want to have to go back outside to dump it out. I can get every single item in here except for the tent packed up before I even leave the tent. Yeah, this little buddy heater's awesome. So apparently, last night when I was sleeping on the ice, I could not get the temperature of that tent. That was not a winter tent, so it was a lot more venti than this, which is not a good thing. It meant that I didn't get as good of a night of sleep. I did get 4 hours, but I had a big day, so that I didn't really catch up. That's why I was kind of tired yesterday. And I could not get the temperature of that tent while I was sleeping ever above 34 degrees. So that's why I didn't have as good of a night's sleep. This was really warm. And also because it was kind of cold last night, the propane can was freezing way easier. Like, last night, when I swapped this thing out in the middle of the night, it wasn't technically out yet. It was actually still going, but weak. I could see it was about to freeze. The tank was covered in frost, but because it was so warm in here, it never completely froze. So that was awesome. I'm going to go grab my coffee that I got. I'll have to clean that up when I get it off the burner. I spilled a little bit. All these dishes are going to have to be cleaned when I get home. All this bedding is going to have to be washed. It's all muddy and a little smoky from last night. Here's my coffee. That soup should be almost done. This burner cooks fairly fast. I had it so low that bumping it made it go out. This thing is actually works really good as a heater also. Like if you just had the flame on high, that would add temperature in here very quickly also. That's definitely heated up enough. I'm gonna put that over here to cool. No, I'm not. That's too crooked right now. I'll just put it on the floor to let that cool a bit. That'll actually be even better because there's snow. It'll cool faster. And I'll start heating this up very slow because I got to eat that first. Start having some coffee, waking up in here. It's snowing very heavily outside. You see, it's actually accumulating on the bottom of the tent where it's not as hot. Check it out. I think that's finally cool enough to eat. Now, I was maintaining 60-degree temperature on the floor by my head, which is amazing. Now that it's up a little bit, I bet the temperature is going to rise even more. Now, in front of the heater, take a look underneath the tarp. We melted down to the grass. And you see, what this is, in the middle right here is a hump in the middle of the road. Here and here are the dirt tire marks because it's one of those roads that must not be used that much. Yep, used so little that it's just the tire trails going through here with a grassy center. Look at that. It's amazing that things are still green underneath there. It's soup time. And in the distance, if we're quiet, can you hear the tractor trailer coming? Yeah, he's driving by the end of the road right now. Because look, it's still early. They are using log trucks until 2 in the afternoon, the guy said yesterday. This time of year, they are only logging between midnight and 2 in the afternoon. Nighttime hours while the roads are hard and frozen, because if they try to do it in the late afternoon, they're going to sink really deep. I was driving in inches of mud yesterday. Imagine a truck that weighs 200,000 pounds, what it would do. Because these trucks that they run out here are double wide trailers. They have so much weight in them. Sometimes the logs are extending over the entire cab, I've seen. They really load them up to get them out of the deep wilderness. It's always nice to have another heat source just to get the chill out while I'm eating. Already getting too hot in here. That burner really adds heat to the room. That propane can's about to run out. Yeah, I'm not even hungry anymore. When I leave, something can eat that. I gotta put this on top because this is waterproof on the bottom and it's snowing outside. Everything inside here is warm. If I bring it right outside, the snow will melt all over and get it really wet. Time to shut the burner off. That'll be cold enough to put inside the sled in only a couple minutes. I hear another log truck going by. The propane literally just froze into the base. Alright, the zipper on the bottom of the door is frozen, so I can't just get the sled out. I'm gonna have to rip up a stake and bring it underneath the tent, because I don't want to break the zipper on the tent. But first thing is get the stove out of here. Let's go back inside and put its pipes in. Oh, forgot the chimney cap. Get that dumb spark arrestor off. Alright, that's all the piping it came with, and the poker stick. Went in there nice. This is an aftermarket damper it did not come with. Close up the legs. That one's loose. I'll get that with a screwdriver later on. Our burner's now cold enough. Everything can be packed up inside the tent. I got the zipper free. All right, nothing inside. We're all set. Yup, time to take the tent down. If it stays snowing all day, this is gonna be a cold day. I think I'm gonna get back to the car, warm up before I pull that tire. Got this garbage right here. All right, everyone, I'm back to the car. I'm gonna fill up with gasoline because I'm just about empty. I probably got at least 60 miles back to the road. Yesterday I was about 120 miles out. Today I'm thinking I'm maybe 60, maybe 80 miles deep in the wilderness today. I think with the road conditions being so many frost heaves and bumps, I think we may even have a 5-hour journey out of here. On a good day, it's like 3 hours, but there's no way we're gonna be able to drive the speed limit. It's gonna be icy, and I know yesterday was pretty warm out, but today I think it's gonna be a cold day. The fact that it's snowing and very cloudy. It's cold enough for the road to be frozen. I'm not cold with my jacket on. It's pretty nice, actually. There's no wind. The good news is it's still in the position I put it in yesterday. It's not even touching the tire, but it's like half an inch away, so I'm sure it is still rubbing. The very worst thing that could happen is the tire blows out, and I think the donut is actually smaller, so that'd probably be further away from it. But now that everything's frozen, I don't think I would get that dirty. I'm just gonna crawl under there. I might be able to actually get that without taking the tire off, which would be awesome. Take a look at the mud on the muffler. Look at that. That is so funny. Walking out to the road, we got fresh snow, and we also got fresh tractor-trailer tracks. So this is probably those trucks we heard. You see, they were turning around, and I was definitely not in their way. A lot of tracks. There's going to be more and more trucks coming by here. This is all truck tires, and look, no more mud today. But we got to be careful because the roads are going to be pretty slippery now. Just take a look at all these log piles they got to pick up. I showed you guys those things yesterday. Smells awesome, like pine trees just driving through there. This is a working forest. It's basically a giant tree farm. They cut them down every 40 years or so for pulpwood. Then they replant them immediately. You see the larger white pine trees right there? Those are for lumber, and they usually let those grow about 70 years. Every piece of forest up here has been logged at some point. There are no more old growth forest in this area of the country. Not at all. I just want to take a little walk right here. Take a look at this hump. There might be a culvert pipe there. I think that is actually a culvert pipe. It's not very abrupt. I don't think it's a frost heave. But I'm gonna go for a walk right here near the logs, and I'm hoping to find a log that's only like a foot long. And I think I actually found one right there in the opening. I want to grab that, bring it back to the car, and drive up over it so I can crawl underneath there a bit easier. There is a hump here, and it does look like a culvert pipe, like water comes through here. The snow is much too deep to see that kind of stuff, though. I think there is maybe a culvert. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, maybe not. It's just a hump in the road. No, this is not a pipe. But I think there is one nearby. It looks like a swamp. So, you know, yesterday I was talking about the idea of finding a forest like this that they just logged but are no longer working in. Because I thought for wintertime it'd be good, because look at all the stuff on the ground you can burn. Just don't burn the green stuff. It probably wouldn't burn well anyways. With a camping stove, it might cause creosote where, you know, it'd be hard to get the pipes apart, but there's no real danger to it. It's just sappy and would make a mess. Pulling my sled through there, setting up on that kind of stuff, it would just make a sappy mess. So right here looks like they're just doing more of a thinning job here and there, cutting down trees. Sometimes that works out well, sometimes it shocks the trees that are remaining. So we're gonna come in this log skid road. I don't see any of the logging equipment out here anymore, the skidders, I don't see anything like that. I'm just gonna grab this piece of wood here because I want to back up over it. I'm hoping that'll give me enough lift to comfortably crawl under the car without having to jack it up again. Let's start it up and back up over it. All right, everyone. Oh yeah, this totally helped. A lot more working space. Oh wow, look, it ended up breaking that plastic box I mentioned the other day. See, it's not touching the tire. I don't know if it's rubbing at any point anymore, but I do hear a lot of noise. It might just be dragging in the road, which I don't have a problem dealing with. I want to get more bungees on this to give it more tension though. And I'm trying to figure out why I don't have 2 inches of clearance from the wheel like I did yesterday when I rigged it up. I did have a zip tie in there, and maybe that broke. I'm not seeing the zip tie anymore. You know, I think it's okay. I think I'm just going to drive like this, and when we get out to the main road, maybe pull the tire off. I don't know. All right, everyone. Let's go on out of here. Nice fluffy snow. And the car is saying 28 degrees, which is probably accurate. It's not sitting in the sun. Engine's not hot or anything. Alrighty, time to get out of here. Who knows, we might see log trucks on the road because it's cold out today, and they supposedly work this time of year up until 2 o'clock. So far, I'm not hearing any noise, so just gonna take it easy and go to town. I love driving these types of roads. I feel like they make you a better driver since there's so many hazards on them. You know, these roads, they change so dramatically. Yesterday you saw it was a soupy, muddy mess. Today, if you're where the tire treads are, it's pretty icy. But that's why I'm off to the side a little bit. The snow gives you a little extra traction. You know, these roads change so much that in the summertime, you could be driving down them in the morning. It is not that bad because the morning dew stops it from being too dusty. As soon as the sun comes out a couple hours later, it's so dusty. You get a rainstorm, it immediately turns to mud where you can sink really deep. And after a rainstorm, it only takes a few hours of sunlight for it to become dusty again, assuming that time of year the water table's low again. This snow actually makes it even harder to see the bumps and frost heaves. It kind of smooths it out because, you know, I'm kind of getting snow blinded. Everything looks like one big sheet. Sometimes I'm out on these roads, and if there's a thick, fresh coating of snow and you can't see other people's tracks, everything is just pure white. Sometimes you just got to go really slow because you have trouble seeing where the road even is. Because unless there's mud or something to make the road dirty, you can't really tell sometimes. We're not having that problem today, though. These roads are actually quite nice. I'm not hearing any noise from the shock. I'm traveling at about 25 miles an hour. This will be a nice ride. I'm sure we'll see a few log trucks on the way. Maybe we'll see a friendly moose or something exciting. I just had to get out right here and see this ridiculousness. Look at this culvert pipe. They only put in the ground a few inches. Isn't that dumb? Look at this. It's a plastic pipe. Of course those giant 200,000-pound trucks are gonna start crushing it. Look at this, the plow has been hitting it, tearing it up, turning it into microplastics. And I don't understand why they don't use metal ones. Plastic, the manufacturer claims, has a 70-year lifespan. Well, that's only if it's deep in the ground and doesn't get broken. Metal culverts have more strength, so they don't have to be put in nearly as deep. Concrete ones I don't think would actually be a good option out here. I think they would actually get cracked by the hard frost heaves. And here's another one. Look at that. Barely in the ground, making this big whoop. May not look like much on the camera, but you're going over that, and I was just going over that at only 25 miles an hour, and a bunch of things in the back of the car bounced around. Along with the frost heaves, that's one of the reasons we find logs sometimes all over the side of the road. Truck hits that fast, sometimes logs fall off. Because out here, they don't always secure the loads until they actually get to the main road and put them on another truck that is street legal, because most of the trailers they use out here are double wides. Yeah, every single culvert pipe on this section of road is sunken and crushed by the trucks. What happens during mud season, pipes aren't put in nearly deep enough. Now this is very beautiful, this section of road. We're going over a bridge with a river underneath it right now. Take a look at all these trees. Sometimes people think that these trees are all dead. Those are actually tamarack. They're not evergreens. They drop all their needles for the winter time. Right now they're starting to turn that brownish tint because they're covered in buds, ready to open up pretty soon. We got something exciting coming up. We got this big machine stacking the logs for the logging truck. Caution, equipment working on road. Always make sure the operator sees you. The guy, he's gonna move the boom out of the way for us. I think I saw the same guy 2 days ago. Look at that machine working. That's pretty cool. I think they're ripping the branches off him too, because what he's touching right there had a whole bunch of branches still on it. See, he puts the boom to the side. I can go by. He's not going to see me wave at him in this angle, but he waved at me 2 days ago going by. Look at all those logs. Those will get picked up probably tonight and shipped out through Canada. There's a giant saw truck down that road. Look at this, barely any tracks on this section of road. All the logging traffic took a turn to the left down some other road that's usually not even there. So they're logging a whole bunch of the forest there, and it's all getting shipped out into Canada. Right now, the only road going back to the United States right here, there's only a couple tracks from pickup trucks. No log trucks this time of year coming down this way. Another culvert pipe leaving a giant hump in the road. Yep, so all the trucks are turning around somewhere up that new road. But that is also definitely a temporary road. This road is permanent. This road has been here for over 100 years, while those other ones, they come and go. The only way roads they're not using stay open is people using them for hunting, recreation, camping. That's all that keeps them open. And that's why they let people use them out here, because it keeps their roads open. And then come 40 years when it's time to log again, typically it's not 40 years. Typically it's like 10, 20 years, because they do it in patches. They don't usually clear cut a massive area. They'll clear cut small little areas here and there, because the forest does much better. Because when you open up a huge area, the sun heats it up, so it's harder for things to grow back. But if you have patches, you know, it keeps the forest cooler, things grow back faster. So the weather just said that around here today, we are going to get above the freezing mark, and this may actually start turning to rain. So these roads might actually get muddy again today. And it says tonight, we could get, depending on the area, it could be a mix of rain, or it could be half a foot of snow. It depends where you are, the elevation. Another little one-lane bridge. On this section of road, there must have been a lot of ice, because I can see they actually came down here spreading really fine gravel and grit on the road for traction. You see how the road now looks heavily used again? We just went by another road where they're obviously logging out this way, so maybe we'll pass a log truck if this area is working during the day. Because today is a little bit colder, and despite that, it is still going to become warm enough to cause mud. Now, these log trucks are not going to Canada. There's some pretty deep ruts here that froze. You know, after hours and hours of driving on some of these bumpy roads, it actually starts to hurt after a while. After a while, it actually starts giving me headaches. Sometimes makes my hands hurt. Just going over bumps like this for hours. You know, this is not even that bad. Sometimes these roads are full of so many potholes. You're better off on a road like this the heavier your vehicle is. Just because heavier vehicles ride better. Take a look at how beautiful the lake is out there. Can barely see it over that giant snowbank. Right here, there are some very deep ruts in the road. Probably from yesterday, a truck sinking. That guy went down like 6 inches. You see here, it's still soft. Right now, it's 30 degrees outside, and it is still sleeting. No longer snowing. The weather did say that it may go over to full rain later, or some areas could get a bunch of snow. You can't see it that well with the snow, but I can tell this area yesterday was a very muddy mess. The roads in this area are not good at all. There's lots of ruts, lots of potholes, pretty bumpy ride. It started snowing again, pretty heavily. Check it out, that's really cool. All the lichen growing on that sign. It's made out of plywood, that's why it's growing on the edges of it. Look at this snowbank, it's like 4 feet tall. This is a free state campsite. If I wanted to use it, I would take a whole day of shoveling just to get in there. Beautiful place. There's a trail going into a swamp. On a clear day, it's got a nice mountain view. Take a look at this. These ruts here are only like 4 inches deep, but you see the ice? When you're in them, it's very hard to steer out of them. And this snowbank is solid. I just pulled over on the side of the road so I could use the bathroom, and I pulled way up onto it. The car is very crooked. But everything's going okay. The strut's not touching anything. Yeah, we still have a little bit of clearance. I'm hearing it banging around sometimes, but I think all that banging around is actually just it hitting the ground. It might be touching the tire every now and then, but it's not consistent, so there's no concern at the moment. Oops. At the bottom of this hill, it looks like somebody went off the road. I wonder if they were able to get out of this or not by themselves, or if someone pulled them out. This road is underneath this snow. It is actually sheer ice. I'm not really slipping at all because I'm going slow, but if you're going the actual speed limit on the road, which is 45, I can see how you'd go off the road at the bottom of this hill because it's a corner. Everyone, at this point, it's no longer snowing. We're slightly above freezing, and it looks like it's raining. I believe that would be freezing rain on anything it's touching. So the road might get slick. We only have about 5 more miles until we get to the asphalt, which in this weather I expect there not to be a problem. Oh yeah, it's freezing rain. Definitely. I just went to put my brakes on and I couldn't stop in time. Not nearly. The good news is with these giant snowbanks, it's not likely you'd go far or even get that much damage. I stopped right here because take a look at this dip right here. I believe that's a culvert pipe. It's a huge dip. I slammed my brakes on here and just could not stop. You can actually see the little bit of skid right there. Slammed the brakes on, went through that at a good 30 miles an hour. Things went flying in the car. I also, just in time, those are my tracks, avoided this sinkhole that's opening up. That is caused because in the wintertime, the frost heave pushed up a rock, then it settled back down, and took the dirt with it. Honestly, I don't see any reason I can't just drive home with that. It's not touching the ground at all. It's not going to be sparking. Yeah, so you can only hear it over the bigger bumps. Everything's starting to melt now. We are well above freezing. Take a look at all the cracking in the road. There's so many frost heaves, sunken spots all over the place. This road is brand new. They just repaved it last year. They did the drainage ditches, they did the culverts, everything brand new. Regrading it, but the frost heaves are just destroying it. Because the one thing they did not do is dig out the road and replace it with a new fill that can drain easily. So, still has a lot of frost heave issues. I'm happy that I'm driving on a wet road now because it basically cleaned the entire under of the car already. It's raining right now. I won't even have to wash the car when I get back. It'll almost do it totally for me. Alright, I just got an updated forecast, and tonight the snowiest part of Maine is only getting 1 to 3 inches of snow. I'm not having any problem on the road. I don't see any need to go to a mechanic up here. I'm just going to do it when I get home. And I don't even have to wash the car now before I go in. The entire car is shiny again, just being on this road for half an hour. Alright everyone, it's awfully foggy out now. In person it's even worse than the camera seeing. It keeps going back and forth between heavy rain and snowing. I already have an appointment tomorrow to get that strut fixed, and while I'm at it, I'm going to get an oil change too. I'm glad it's raining because the entire car is clean. There's not a spot of mud on it except the back window. The only place the rain can't really get off. So that's nice. You know, because usually before you bring a car in for service, you want to get it clean. That's really rude showing up with mud. Although the guy I bring it to usually pressure washes all the cars anyways before he works on them. But it's just rude. I hope today's video was interesting, everyone. Thanks for watching and have a great day. I'll come back up here in a few weeks and camp again. Didn't really want to stay out here and camp in the rain. If it was going to snow, I would have stayed up here another day, despite the issue. But camping in the rain, unless you're going to be there a few days and have a nice dry day where everything can dry out, I just don't want to deal with all the mud. When you're in northern Maine and you see a sign like that that says bump, you better slow way down, because it's not like when you're down in a place like Massachusetts, they mark things, you go over and you're like, what bump? I want to get out and show some of these massive things. So there's one back there, like I had mentioned, they sometimes bring out a milling machine to cut off the top of the frost heave so it's not as bad. Those bumps are probably from the frost heave because this is not nearly as bad as it has been in years past. I've always known there to be a frost heave here. Take a look at the freezing rain weighting down the trees. Yeah, this frost heave comes every year, but it appears this year they actually did something about it. Yeah, they just filled it in with dirt at the moment. You can see last year they also cut it out, repaved it, but right now for the time being they just filled it with dirt because they can't pave it until the spring. Now, why is there a frost heave here? I see a crack right there. There is a stream. So what I think might be happening here is, for it to be lifting up, it's the opposite of the logging roads. Trucks aren't crushing it. Instead, it's lifting up. So I think a lot of the water in the water table is going under the pipe, around the pipe, saturating it. And around here, sometimes the ground can freeze over 3 feet, maybe 4 feet deep. And as that freezes, it expands and comes up. So yes, there is a trickling stream here, which is probably the reason there's so much moisture. This road is an absolute mess. There's a lot of frost heaves, but there's only one that they didn't mill like this that I feel is still a problem. And it's around a corner, so they better get to that, because that's going to cause a big accident if the wrong person comes around not expecting it. All right, everyone, so I made it home. Just driving in the rain, did a pretty good job at cleaning the mud off, as you can see. But, so the mechanic isn't mad at me. I'm just going to go ahead and clean everything off, spend maybe a half an hour, spraying every part of the frame so it's nice and clean. As you can tell by my driveway, all of our snow melted. Back at home, it's 48 degrees, while it's still snowing and in the 30s where I camped last night. Look at that one bungee cord, it's just shredded one of them. That must have got hit by something, I'm assuming. Later this year, here's an investment that I should probably make, because I spend probably hours every time I go off-road cleaning my car. If I plan on going again very quickly, like I plan on going somewhere again off-road probably next week. But look what happens. Caked inside the tire, there's like half an inch of mud. And the thing is, it falls off unevenly. And once it starts falling off unevenly, the car shakes like crazy. And that is because it's very, very off-balanced. So when that happens, it takes forever to chisel that away. But a pressure washer would get that thing so easily. So what do you guys think? Should I go for a powerful gas one or just get an electric one? You think that'd be good enough? Because I'd only be using it at the house to clean off stuff when I get back.